WIBTA If I Failed my student because she speaks with different dialect than I teach. Language degree. We are having exams coming up and I have a huge moral dilemma. I'm a lecturer at a university and one of the subjects I teach is related to phonology and pronunciation. We teach our students Castilian Spanish. This year, I have a first year student who refuses to follow pronunciation that is being taught. She, Eva, obviously a fake name, uses a different dialect. Very distinct one with a lot of very different sounds. Aspirated consonant, etc. However, the dialect is very much understandable, and she uses correct grammar, etc. Admittedly, she has excellent pronunciation, much better than we would expect from our 3rd year students, but it's not something we teach. I have asked her before to try and adhere to the pronunciation guide we teach them, but she said that she learned it watching TV and picked up the accent that way and it comes naturally to her, and if she tried to change it, she wouldn't be nearly as fluent in her speech as she is now. Technically, she isn't doing anything wrong by using a different dialect. She's very good at it and she's one of our top students, but I don't think we should make exceptions as other students who are not as good will then expect the same leeway, especially that I believe that her stubbornness and refusal to even try is disrespectful to lecturers and may come across as if she's feeling that she's better than others and rules don't apply to her. But course requirements don't have specific dialect listed. We have oral exams coming up soon, and I'm considering failing her if she doesn't use dialect that is taught. I spoke to my colleagues and some of them agree with me, but others have said that WIBTA because she's not making mistakes and shouldn't be failed for the way she speaks, especially that this is how language is used natively in some countries. But we fail students if they speak with really bad pronunciation, so I don't see why I shouldn't fail her for speaking with different one. So would I be the antagonist if I failed her? Now for the top comments. AITA Spanish is a polycentric language and I hate to break it to you, but Peninsular Spanish dialects aren't even the most widely spoken. Would you try to justify failing someone for using Australian English in an English oral exam, rather than, say, American English? Get over yourself. You've a happy and motivated student in your class. Most teachers would be happy to have her there and would encourage her interest. Oh no, gosh, I didn't know. Do you seriously think I don't know what dialects are spoken where? Whether the dialect is widely spoken or not is irrelevant. What's relevant is that our department teaches specific dialect based on proximity to Spain. And yes, if a course teaches specific English, and it's not unusual to have British English courses, students can fail if they speak with wrong accent. Technically, she isn't doing anything wrong by using a different dialect. That's all we need to know. You're the a-hole. If other students use the same dialect and are as good as she is, you'll grade them accordingly. Be a teacher. Can I fail my student for doing something that's not against the rules, but that I don't like? Sounds like a fantastic teacher. Do you really need Reddit to tell you how to grade? I'd be horrified if any class I was paying good money for had to consult Reddit to figure out how to grade me. Is there no way to discuss this with your department chair? Adding judgment, you're the a-hole. Precisely. If I found any of my colleagues here, I'd lose it. Now for an update. WIBTA If I Failed my student because she speaks with different dialect than I teach. Language degree. I figured that those who read the post would appreciate an update regarding the student you tried to protect. I read your comments and yeah, right. I would have been an ass if I failed her. Her pronunciation is excellent, and it would be a shame to force her to change it. I made my decision and I think you'll be happy to find out what it was and how her exam went. Had a chat with Eva and told her how well she's done this year. I explained that students are taught specific pronunciation, but there's no correct and incorrect accent and we will not expect her to change it seeing how well she's doing. But since we teach certain pronunciation, she's expected to know pronunciation rules we teach, and told her to just know the difference in pronunciation without actually having to implement it. During her exam, she was asked a few questions regarding pronunciation differences and the rest was just the standard exam conversation and presentation. She was marked based on the dialect she speaks. She passed with flying colors and she doesn't know it yet. but will receive scholarship next year for her grades. And going forward, well, make sure that students who speak with different dialect will get full grades, as long as they know the differences in pronunciation between regions, which we require anyway, but wasn't part of the exam. Now for the top comments. It is nice when people listen and learn. Good job. 100%. Good. Glad you were able to get past the pronunciation issue. Reading the original post just now, and all I could imagine is someone taking whatever the equivalency of this for English is and being failed because they watched Jersey Shore and have a Jersey accent, or learned English in the South and have a drawl. WTF. Glad opted the right thing. I'm French and studied English studies as my degree. I spent a year abroad in Ireland, organized by my French uni, and was marked down on an oral exam because my accent was incoherent and a mix of American and British pronunciation. I tried to argue that my accent was influenced by my year in Ireland, but they insisted I choose either standard American or RP. I worked super hard to on my RP accent and got full marks after that, but now I'm kinda stuck with that accent, and I live in Scotland, so it's even more jarring, lol. Happy you came to the right conclusion. Same thing happened to me when I moved from the US to Germany. They teach British English, and I was constantly marked wrong for pronunciation. Even if I followed the correct words like rubbish instead of garbage, it didn't change anything. I still obviously speak American English fluently, but the teachers sure got their power trips over it and continued to punish me throughout my entire school career for not suddenly becoming British. You're a teacher, not a dictator. Rules are wonderful guidelines, but you have to be able to take in circumstance and adjust those rules. Best teacher I ever had loved that I spoke American English and had me read out loud to the class to highlight differences in the two variants. Love seeing Reddit actually making a difference. Am I the antagonist for avoiding my son when he wanted to spend time with me? I, 40F, love my son Avram, 21, but I did not want to be a mom and was denied an abortion. I love him so much, but I've never deserved him. I was a terrible mom. I know it was bad untreated depression, but it doesn't excuse anything. His dad and stepmom took him when he was 10, and they love him so much and made him the most amazing young man in the world, and I'm so grateful. After they took him, I got therapy treatment and then spent time an inpatient for my drinking. Avram kept wanting to see me. His dad let me have weekends and I tried to make the best of it and be a good mom this time. He'd always tell me I didn't need to apologize cause I was sick, and he loved living with me. Since he turned 18 he spent more time with me, and I know I don't deserve it, and his stepmom does, but I don't do anything cause it makes him happy. This past Friday his stepmom was hosting a work dinner and wanted all her kids there, but Avram wanted to spend Friday with me cause we always do that. She's more his mom than me, so I knew he should be there for her, but he wouldn't listen and insisted on being with me, so I pretended I wasn't home that day and ghosted him so he'd go, and I saw he did on his girlfriend's Ig story. But you can see who sees stories, and she did, and messaged me. I was selfish for ghosting, and I really upset him. She essentially called me an asshole without saying it. He hasn't messaged me much since then either. I don't think I'm wrong. I'm trying to do what's best for him, and that's showing gratitude to the woman who deserves his love. But I thought to try for judgment here. Now for the top comments. AITA. He is an adult and can make his own choices about how he spends his time and who he spends it with. You need to communicate. Ghosting was a dick move. AITA. Your kid is 21 and is well past the age where he can make his own decisions about which of his parents he wants to spend time with. You explained to him that he should really be with stepmom, and it would have been his decision to not do that and hang with you instead. If I were him, I'd feel so hurt by this. AITA. Ghosting your kid isn't cool. At least give him the respect of being honest. Could you not have spoken to the stepmom about attending as well? She would not want me there. Now for an update. Am I the antagonist for avoiding my son when he wanted to spend time with me? After my post I realized how wrong I was, and I called Avram, my son, and thankfully he picked up and came over. The first thing he did, before I could even talk, was give me such a big hug. It almost made me cry, but I held back my tears. I talked to him about his stepmother's event and why I felt he should go and why I felt I didn't deserve him. I told him about the things that I did when he lived with me as a kid and why I felt I didn't deserve his forgiveness. I guess what really shocked me was that Avram pointed out to me that he didn't see his time with me as bad and that he mostly had happy memories and all the bad times were just because I was sick and that wasn't my fault. And it's not things I forgot, I guess just things that I never valued and I guess never really considered. Small things like how I'd take him shopping to Zella's on Sundays and always let him buy a toy. How I'd always get a special message printed on his birthday cakes. How I'd always let him sleep hugging me even though he was 10 by the time his dad took. How I'd miss work to stay with him if he got sick. The big thing he told me that made cry is when he was 9. Kids bullied him when they found out we are ethnically Jewish and made him cry so bad he left school before the Easter egg celebration. So I organized an Easter egg hunt just for him in the park. It wasn't just that. He told me so much more that I did that he valued that. If I wrote it here I think I'd break the word limit. It's so hard to hold on to the happy memories when I think about how terrible I was and how much I yelled at him or drank or smoked. But if he can do it then I can do it for him. And I've been trying. I've let him take full control of our relationship and I think it's been for the best. I've been seeing him much more often and during Mother's Day, he and his girlfriend took me out to dinner and gave me so many boxes of chocolates. I've only been eating them when they come over so we can have them together. Even therapy has been going better since I did convince him to attend some sessions with me and I think he's understanding what I went through when I got pregnant, but also how much respect I have for his stepmother. Plus, his girlfriend has started going to the gym with me. I love my son so much. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. He is everything that was ever good about me and thankfully he got nothing that is bad with me. Maybe in another world where I didn't end up so damaged, I like to think I would have turned out just like him. He makes me so proud and so happy. I will try and never hurt him again and never be so selfish again. So thank you to everyone who convinced me to apologize and to all the other mothers out there. Please hug your sons tonight if you can, no matter how old they are. Now for the top comments. I'm genuinely glad you listened to those comments. You had a son who wanted his mother. Now he has her. Thank you for doing this. For both you and your son. And I will try my best to make sure he can have me for as long as I'm on this earth. NGL. I'm ugly crying at my work desk right now. Good on you for taking advice and talking it out with him. I'm so glad he showed you the mom he sees you as. Look at you from his eyes, mama. I'll give you a saying my father always told me, there is no such thing as a perfect parent. You did the best with the tools you have. And that sounds accurate in your situation as well. Remember, you did the best you could with the tools you had. And obviously you did a great job. Look at how deeply your son loves you and wants to be around you. If you were half as bad as a mom as you think you were, he wouldn't want to be around you as much as he is. We are our own worst critics. You're right since letting him take charge of things. I think that I can sit in his shoes. Kind of like how him going to therapy with me lets him sit in mine. A boy will always love his mom, but this past little bit has been surprising me by showing me just how much I would do anything for my perfect boy. Oh my, if I was a person that cried I'd be bawling. This is so sweet. I'm so very happy for you. I'm a person who cries. I'm ugly crying for both of us. This is beautiful. Am I the antagonist for not inviting my sister's fiance to my graduation party? So my 22F sister, 24F, recently got engaged to a guy she's been seeing for about a year and a half. Let's call him David. I've never liked David. Literally from the moment my sister brought him home to meet us for the first time. Every single one of us disliked him. He was just a very rude guy who didn't seem to have any manners at all. Literally the first time I met him, he said my sister got all the looks in the family as a joke. My sister stopped telling me anything about him because she knew I don't like him and will probably talk shit. But 3 months ago or so, we found out he cheated on her with his ex, who also happens to be the mother of 3 of his kids. She packed her stuff and left him for about a day. Although I was devastated for her, I was so happy she found the strength to leave him, and know she deserved better. Literally not even 24 hours later, he proposed to her, gave her a speech about how much he loves her and can't see his life without her, and she cried of joy and said yes. Sigh. Anyway, him having my graduation party in 2 weeks. My sister called to ask what she wanted them to bring me as a gift. I asked her who them was, as I already previously told her I never wanted to be around her fiance. I thought it would be obvious I wouldn't want him at my graduation party. The last time I saw him, we had a fight because my sister sent him to pick something up from my house. But he was busy, so he sent his friend. A friend who I literally exposed for stalking me when I was in high school. He used to harass me to date him and would literally drive to my high school to stare at me for a while, then leave. I had so much anxiety for so many years because of him. David knew damn well this guy used to stalk me when I was in high school, but he still sent him to my house, and now that asshole has my address. When I called him out, he said I was being dramatic and that I like making a big deal out of everything. Anyway, I told my sister I don't want him at my graduation party. She said I was being unreasonable and that I should understand they come as a pair now. I told her that's completely fine and that the pair of them can simply not attend my party then. She said I was being a bitch and that after all we've been through as sisters, him letting hate win. I feel like him quite justified in not wanting him to attend, to be honest. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. There's excluding someone's fiance because of petty bullshit. And then there's excluding someone's fiance because said fiance gave your stalker your home address. If your sister is upset, maybe she shouldn't marry someone who is an ass to her and her family. I completely agree. Not the a-hole. Up in high school I had a stalker too. Mine almost choked me to death. Years and years later he still continued to randomly stalk me again and again. I'd go to great lengths to keep myself safe from this guy, and I would never forgive anyone who gave him my address. You are not being dramatic. You are being wise to choose to be safe. Your sister's fiance is definitely the R. And if your sister does not support you from not wanting to be around someone who would give your stalker your address, then she is either a class A idiot or an R in her own right. NTA. But I'm concerned for your sister. Based on your description, her fiance doesn't exactly sound like much of a winner. I hope she sees the light before walking down the aisle. But if she doesn't see the light and marries him, I hope she doesn't have kids with him. But if she has kids with him, oh, never mind. Now for an update. Am I the antagonist for not inviting my sister's fiance to my graduation party? Hi, I'm back with an update. So I graduated last weekend. My sister didn't come, of course, and I hadn't reached out to her to try convince her to either. She was clear in her stance that she and her man come as a package and I'll have to accept him or accept that she won't come. Kind of worked for the better though. I gave the extra invitation for the ceremony to a friend who has a big family and she got to bring both grandparents. Anyway, my dad found out about the stalker incident. I didn't tell him because he would worry too much. He was furious and told my sister she better not bring David around him. And also that he was disappointed she gave David the benefit of the doubt regarding the whole situation when he put me in danger like that. She said I shouldn't have been so worried about the stalker because he has a wife now and isn't interested in stalking me anymore. So dumb. I've had to bother my male friends by asking them to stay at my house with me most nights because I'm terrified that the stalker will show up and I'll be by myself. But according to my sister, his marital status should put my mind at ease. Anyway, it was quite a big argument and she stormed off. We found out on the night of my graduation that she and David had eloped and got married the day before. Guess who was in attendance? Yep, the ex-stalker guy. Not surprised, to be honest. Nor do I even care anymore. Everyone is kind of outraged on my behalf, but I kind of really don't care. I had a great time during my graduation. I've somehow managed not to overthink or feel sad about anything. I'm on holiday with my friends, and I'm trying my best to not let my sister, her loser of a husband and the stalker, to be on my mind. It's probably all just in my head, but I really feel like the stalker guy is around me at random times. Since I've been on holiday, I've felt a lot better and am kind of dreading going back home. My lease for my house will be up next month, so I'm hoping moving from my house will help me feel better. But for now, the over-the-counter motion sickness pills will have to do for my anxiety. Thanks to everyone who replied. Hugs. Now for the top comments. Make sure your sister doesn't get your new address. This Op's sister is seriously naive if she believes someone's marital/relationship status stops them from being a stalker. There's been loads of people who have been in a relationship/married and still proceeded to stalk their victims. Ted Bundy having a girlfriend didn't stop him from being a serial killer. Thank you for the update. I'm glad your graduation went well. When you move house, do not give your sister your new address. She obviously cannot be trusted. Your dad sounds awesome though. It's probably all just in my head, but I really feel like the stalker guy is around me at random times. It's not paranoia. If there is really someone out there, someone who stalks high school girls and friend with someone who doesn't seem to mind cheating on his GF, surely isn't the type of stopping bothering people just because he is married. Take care of you. I'm glad to read that your family is supporting you. WIBTA If I chose to tell my don't I don't want to go to my cousin's funeral. Sorry for any grammar errors, I'm on mobile. Alright, to start, I don't have a connection with parts of my family. I don't really talk to most of them and would rather be left in my space because the conversations with my family end up becoming either weird and pisses me off. They would talk about talking to my abusive mom and religion when they actively don't follow what they speak. Now onto the conversation. My dad entered my room asking me if I remember his cousin. I said no. He said he's been coming over for the past week. I've been in my room doing homework for school and barely talked to them. Told him I think I remember him. My dad then explains that his daughter died and he would like me to go to the funeral with him. I told him I might be busy that day and he said it's at 9 AM. I low-key just don't want to go and would rather sleep and then help my school set up prom. Then go to a funeral I have no attachment to. It's very possible I just don't care, either because of today or because I just hate part of my family, so I stopped caring to a point, so I don't have an accurate viewpoint on the situation, which is why I asked here, would I be the a-hole? Now for the top comments. AITA, the others explained well enough, and I don't wanna waste my time repeating their valid points. NTA, going to a funeral for someone you don't have a personal connection to is disrespectful of them. Moreover, you obviously don't have any real connection to most of your family. Would it be nice to go to support your father? Yes. Does it make you an R if you don't? No. Midley, you're the a-hole. It would really please and show respect for your father to go, even though you despise the rest of them, apparently for good reason. Do you have your own vehicle? If so, you can go separately, so you can leave whenever you want. Now for an update. WIBTA If I chose to tell my don't I don't want to go to my cousin's funeral. I went to the funeral as many of you advised and accepted that I would be the a-hole in this situation. My brother came by to join us and it was fun hanging out with him at night before the funeral. With the actual funeral, I wasn't close to my dad for hours of the funeral and I felt that me being there did nothing to add. I also had to cancel my original plans because it took longer than expected. Other than that, I got to talk to some family and show some kind of support. Thank you guys for giving me the push to go, but it made me realize that maybe next time I'll just stay home unless I had a connection to the one who died. Now for the top comments. I have found most often we go to funerals to support those around us, not for ourselves. Sorry others put these expectations on you. Funerals are complicated. You did learn something valuable. Wishing you the best. Yeah, it's fine though. I would have been the a-hole anyway. Most of my friends agreed I would, so I accepted it and went. It was great. But I should have stayed home honestly. 4 of my uncles have died of cancer in the last 7 years and I haven't been to any funerals. Why? I had no emotional connection with them. They were people I wouldn't see for a whole year. Considering we lived in the same city, my mother never forced me to go because she knew how I felt. No one in my family has ever asked me why I haven't been. I think they didn't even realize I wasn't there. Like I said, we live in the same city, but we don't see each other very often. Am I the antagonist for kicking out my party guests for fighting plus one of them not being invited? Hey everyone. Last time I was on this sub, it helped me realize what a dick I was being. I'm in another situation where I feel like I need an outside perspective on this. So I, 21 male, had a birthday party tonight. Nothing huge. I invited my sister Amanda 17F and her partner JJ 17NB, best friend Mattia 22 meters, and his twin sister Mira 22F. Plan was to order pizza, do some awful karaoke singing, and then watch a movie. When Mattia and Mira arrived, they had brought Mira's on-off boyfriend Jeff, without asking, which really irked me, since it was supposed to be my birthday party after all. I don't really like Jeff, but I decided to put up with it, though I did take Mattia aside and tell him I would have appreciated a heads up. Things started out rough. Mira practically had to beg for Jeff's attention to get him to answer what pizza he wanted. He was short with her and barely looked up from his phone. Karaoke started, and so did the drinking, which only made it funner. My sis and her partner were having a blast laughing at us since they were the only ones sober. Mira bugs Jeff to do a duet. Jeff doesn't even answer or move when she starts begging. She practically screamed for him to sing with her, and he snapped no and went silent again. I'm fuming by now and sending Mattia quite a few glares. Mira starts singing All the Single Ladies, and then I Hate Myself for Loving You, clearly to get a rise out of him, which worked, and they immediately began to argue how Mira is obsessed with marriage and Jeff doesn't like when she suffocates him. Jeff argues he didn't even wanna be at this stupid party, but she wouldn't let him stay home. I step up and tell them both to knock it off and get the fuck out of my house. Jeff screamed at me and called me an Aussie little bitch. Mattia tried to argue back, but I had enough and kicked him out too. I felt relieved, but guilty when they left. But Amanda and JJ both said it was about time I stepped up and grew a pair, which made me laugh and feel a little better. Mattia texted me later on when we were watching the movie and told me that I should be ashamed of myself for not defending Mira when Jeff was being an ass. I tore him a new one for even letting Mira bring him. Said it was my party and Jeff wasn't invited in the first place. How he knew I didn't like this guy and thought I wouldn't mind an uninvited guest at my birthday party. He called me a birthday brat for kicking out Mira and Jeff because they were simply having relationship problems. I called him delusional and said he should lose my number till he realizes what a jackass he was. He replied, takes one to know one, just before I blocked his number. I plan to reach out when the dust settles. But am I tough for how things went down? Now for the top comments. NTA. First, they didn't ask you about inviting someone else. Second, they didn't need to bring their drama to someone else's celebration. Last, if Mattia was so adamant about someone defending his sister against Jeff, why didn't he step in and do it himself? Sorry for your partially ruined night. Happy birthday. My point exactly. I wasn't about to insert myself into a couple's dispute, but Mattia was far from helpful. I get he's sick of their shit, but that makes it okay to ruin my party, I guess. Thanks for your input and birthday wish. NTA. They brought someone uninvited to your party and they start a fight. You're totally justified in kicking them out. Your birthday isn't the place for them to work out their relationship problems. Mira needs to dump Jeff. She isn't going to change him into wanting marriage, and this situation is all full of red flags for them. And they had no right to have it out at your party. Now for an update. Am I the antagonist for kicking out my party guests for fighting? Repost after mod approval. I have an update to my post from a few months ago and was just prompted to write it, so here I am. The fallout from the fight took a few weeks to smooth over, but the good news is things between Mattia and I have been repaired. My birthday party just happened to fall during a stressful time between him and Mira. Jeff had been a major stressor as well, but even though Mira was really unhappy, nothing anyone, not even Matt, could say that would make her see the light. Pretty much that night, Mira and Jeff ended things for good, and about a month after my birthday party she reached out to officially apologize for how everything went down. Mattia had already given me an apology for her behalf, but she had been mentally beating herself up for so long and felt so guilty. Mirror and I met up for coffee to talk IRL, where she and I actually got to connect and see how much we actually get along without her brother there. It's funny how more outgoing she seems when Matt isn't around. We have lots of music interests in common, and she invited me to a home cooked meal at her place. Long story short, we've been dating for 2 months and just recently I asked her to be my official girlfriend and she said yes. Mattia also gave us his blessing and he has told me that he is very happy for us. Edited to correct a word. Now for the top comments. Glad to hear a happy outcome. I hope Matt apologized for his own behavior as well. He had no business being mad at you in the first place. He did. We hashed a lot of things out together. But long story short is we are good. Keeping it simple, they had a lot of family issues going on and the stress bled out into more than just our friendship. Wow, was not expecting that ending. Glad this update had a positive outcome for you both. All three of us really. Matt is in a much better place now as well. Been a hell of a few months, but I like to think we are all closer because of it. That's great. Yes, the good guy wins. I love this. Am I the antagonist for telling my nephew about his diagnosis against his mom's wishes? Throwaway. On mobile. So I 19F am the youngest of 5 siblings, and for full context, my brother J 25 and I are adopted. We are the youngest too. My oldest nephew Alex 15 is my best friend. He is the one I'm closest to in the family. His biological dad is not in the picture. His mothamy sister 45 is kind of an helicopter parent. I love her to the moon AMD back, but she can be overbearing sometimes. Alex recently got diagnosed with cancer. The family is devastated, but we are willing to do anything to help him. The thing is, my sister didn't want to tell him that he had cancer. She thinks he is too young for this kind of news to be forced upon him. But this kind of news is literally inside him. I couldn't get how she would get him into treatment without telling him what the treatment was for. She said she will figure it out, and for the time being, tell him that he has some minor disease. While the family tried to reason with her, she wouldn't listen. And no one insisted on telling him that much, because it is very difficult to have any sort of argument with my sister as she almost never budges. The whole family and her husband, Alex's stepdad, said that even though they all think that Alex should know, at the end it is her call. Jay and I disagreed to this, but we didn't say anything to anyone at that time. We decided amongst ourselves that I should tell Alex as he deserves to know. My sister was being unreasonable and would never ever tell him if it was up to her. So, yesterday, Jay and I visited while she was at work. Jay distracted brother-in-law and their other kids while I talked to Alex and told him. I also told him that it is caught on a much earlier stage and treatment would be easy. He took it as good as any teenager can take that kind of news. We left before our sister was back. She called me in the evening and was mad at me, reasonable, for telling Alex behind her back. I didn't say anything to her except that I thought he deserves to know. Then my brother-in-law texted me and said how wrong it was of me to not listen to my sister. He said that he wanted to tell him too, but he couldn't break the boundary that his wife had established, and I shouldn't have either. My parents are also mad at us right now. Our other brothers aren't mad, but say that we should have at least waited as all of them were trying to make my sister understand. Now I'm feeling like we are the assholes because we took the matter into our own hands. I feel bad for hurting my sister, but at the same time, I still think she was being unreasonable. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. NTA. Not old enough to deal with cancer. When he has cancer? I think your sister is the R. NTA, did you disobey your sister's wishes? Yes, but her wishes are ridiculous. He's 15. He should know about his cancer. It's so wrong of her to withhold the diagnosis from her son. First of all, how is she going to keep up the lie? He is going to be seeing a lot of medical professionals. One of them is bound to tell him about why he's there. Also, it's a Google search away for him to find out on his own. Her lie would come out eventually. Tell your nephew to talk with his doctors himself. Tell him to insist that he know about his health. The doctors would have told him. He would have seen signs saying oncology at his treatments. Edit to clarify, the doctors would have told him when he went in for treatment he would have found out anyway. The sister was just delaying the inevitable. Those were our arguments. Now for an update. Am I the antagonist for telling my nephew about his diagnosis against his mom's wishes? Update. I wasn't sure if this warranted for an update, but things have changed for better, so here it is. It has been like 5 weeks since I posted first. Alex's health. My baby is a fighter. He has had 1 chemo session since then and is on a lot of meds. He is also in good hands mental health wise with his school counselor and the mental health programs offered by the hospital he is being treated at. We've done our research about them. He will see a proper therapist if needed if he wants. Alex doesn't and hopefully will never know about a little conflict. He has been told that my sister wanted me to tell him and she was out on purpose because she was not in right space etc. etc. And he has bought it. My sister and I and Jay, so stuff has cooled down a lot. My sister still thinks that her approach would have been the right one and Jay and I still think what we did was right, but that doesn't matter right now. We have apologized and she has forgiven us and we are on good terms again. My sister is going through hell right now and the less negativity she has the better. My sister's mental health. So many of you suggested that my sister was going through some mental health stuff. I showed Jay the thread and we then told brother-in-law about it. We don't want her to find out that we have posted this online, so brother-in-law had to be very subtle in talking to her about her mental health. Because right now, my sister is not her own priority. The hospital programs I mentioned, they have 2 or 3 for the loved ones of the patients and brother-in-law has been talking to her about joining one of those. She has said she'll think about it and we are hopeful that she will easily. So thank you all so much for praying for Alex's health. And thank you for reading my very short update. Now for the top comments. Just going to add, as someone who had cancer at an early age and who talks to a lot of other young cancer survivors, your nephew showed a remarkable amount of grace. But I know people who wouldn't forgive their parents for lying to them about something about this. By pressing the issue when you did and then letting him think you were all in agreement on this, you probably helped strengthen his relationship with his mother. Even if it will take her time to get to a place where she can accept/realize that. Excellent update. Sending positive vibes. Thank you. Great to read such a positive update. A way for brother-in-law to approach the mental health programs with his wife could be to frame it like this: we want to be as strong as possible for Alex. I think these programs can help us be stronger for him. Apostrophe. Am I the antagonist for not making coffee how my fiance wants me to? Weird title. I, 23F. No. But this has been a point of contention for a while. My fiance, 25 male, is a foodie and is extremely particular about a few things. One of them being coffee. We use a manual grinder. Get distilled water. The water in our area is really hard and according to him affects the taste. But I don't notice anything. And we have an AirPress and a metal coffee filter to make the coffee. I'm very much not a foodie unless being a Sour Patch Kids connoisseur is a thing. My fiance weighs his coffee beans to make sure that he's using the exact right amount. Changes the setting on the coffee grinder depending on whether he's using the AirPress or the metal coffee filter. Measures the water. And if he's using the AirPress, lets the coffee grounds and water brew for a certain amount of time before actually making the coffee. On the other hand, I use a scoop to measure my coffee beans. Use whatever setting the grinder is on. Will usually just use tap water. Eyeball the water instead of measuring it. And don't let it sit to brew. And it now what? It's fine. It tastes fine. It makes me happy. The end. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Problem is that this really bothers my fiance. We've had multiple arguments about me making my coffee wrong. And it's very normal for him to badger me weigh my coffee beans or switch the coffee grinder to the optimal setting while I'm making my coffee. If I'm making coffee for him, sure, I'll measure the beans and all of that jazz because I know that he can taste the difference. But I don't think that I should have to jump through all of those hoops for something that doesn't affect him. On the other hand, he seems to be really bothered by this. Today, as I was trying to scoop coffee beans into the grinder, He reached around me to put the scale he uses in front of me and asked me to please weigh my coffee beans. I was really frustrated because we've had this conversation so many times. So I snapped the word no at him. And he walked away and muttered you too, saying that even though I hadn't said it, I'd definitely been thinking fuck you. For the record, I wasn't thinking that. So am I the antagonist for not making coffee how my fiance thinks I should, and for sometimes snapping at him when he gets pushy about it? Now for the top comments. NTA. Why should he care how you make your coffee? He needs to distance himself from things that don't affect him. Honestly, it would be like you telling him to stop weighing his coffee or using distilled water because since you can't tell the difference, it bothers you that he can. Would he think that was reasonable? Edit. If his counter argument is, but my way is right, he's wrong. His way is how he likes it. There is no objectively right way to do. Alton Brown would tell you using distilled water is madness. Spring water would be better. NTA. Why does he care what you do with your coffee? This was exhausting just to read, let alone have to deal with every day. The you. Too, because he claims you were thinking fuck you was also uncalled for. He sounds like a passive aggressive control freak. NTA. Have you thought about drinking instant coffee? Gasp. Closed bracket question mark. My petty self would love to see his face when he sees you making it lol. Now for an update. Am I the antagonist for not making coffee how my fiance wants me to? So it's been about a year since I made this post. Whenever I read posts like mine on here, I'm always wondering, did I leave that arsehole? So for those of you who care, I left that arsehole. A lot of you were on the nose that this wasn't the only way that he was controlling. My ex believes that he's the smartest person in the room. So if you're doing something differently than how he would, then you're doing it wrong and must be corrected. I'm not saying that everyone's responses to my post gave me a revelation and I immediately knew what I had to do, but it was a nail in the coffin. I'm living within an hour of my parents now when, before I was on the opposite side of the country. I have a job as a carriage driver and I'm planning to go to grad school to be a social worker. I have a boyfriend who doesn't try to control every aspect of my life. When I go grocery shopping, I'm not stressing about accidentally buying the wrong brand of pasta, which was the right brand of pasta when we lived in a different state. I still don't get that, or juice that's from concentrate. And I've switched to pre-ground coffee because fuck you. I want to. None of this would have happened if I'd stayed with him. So yeah. Thank you to everyone who played a tiny role in helping me see what an unhealthy relationship I was in. Now for the top comments. My ex believes that he's the smartest person in the room now he sat alone in that room. It'll always be true. I still wouldn't be too sure about that. The chair would have something to say about that. Congrats. How did X take the breakup? He'd seen it coming and had been casually telling me that I wasn't mentally stable enough to make any major life decisions. He told me that I had depression, anxiety, and autism, all of which a licensed therapist has told me I don't have. And when I broke up with him, he doubled down on it and said that I was doing this because I needed therapy. He maintained that stance until a breakfast we had together where he spent the entire time telling me everything that I did wrong in the relationship and then had a revelation that I was right and that we wanted different things. He'll never understand that he was abusive, but he at least knows that I'm not coming back to him.